The 2003 Carolina Dodge Dealers 400 was held on March 16 at Darlington Raceway in South Carolina. Around 55,000 people attended the race, and although it wasn't NASCAR's iconic Crown Jewel Southern 500, it was a pretty significant race for NASCAR and Darlington Raceway in terms of history. This was the 100th Cup race run at the Darlington Raceway. Elliott Sadler, driving for Robert Yates Racing, got the pole position, and it was his first career pole. It was an overcast day, but no threat of rain on the eve of St. Patrick's Day. Elliott Sadler leads the field to green.
Hey, old Waltrip, just reach a pair. As I tell you, pull those belts tight.
All right. Oh, boogity, oh, boogity, oh, boogity. Let's go racing, oh, boys.
There you heard Mike Joy talking about it, the high line. Ryan Newman in the 12th car. He gets a jump on Elliott Sadler through 1 and 2 and pulls him down the backstretch.
Yeah, Ryan just had to, had the right. He was up there on the outside. That's where you want to be going into turn 1, and it paid off. But here comes Elliott charging back on the inside. Got that Yates horsepower wound up, and he's going for the lead. Right there, folks, is where you got to let up. The guy on the outside has got to let the guy on the inside go, or you'll wreck. You can't go through there too wide.
Ryan Newman got the jump on Elliott Sadler on the outside going into turn number 1, but it wasn't long before Elliott Sadler was able to get back by Ryan Newman to retake the lead. It didn't take long for the first caution to come out in the race. It was only 6 laps in when this happened.
Trouble, Jerry Nadeau, the second place car spins.
And he'll probably, he gets it turned back around, because if he hadn't, he'd have went to the bottom of the racetrack. The caution is out.
Did he make contact?
I don't think so, Darrell.
Matt Kenseth spins coming off turn 2. I think he might have got tagged from behind trying to slow up.
That can happen so easily off that corner over there. You come through 1 and 2 wide open, and somebody lets up in front of you. You can't help but get in the back of them. Part of the field will come down pit road. Here he goes. He just gets in there.
That's where Jamie McMurray clipped Matt Kenseth in the 17. Jamie McMurray in the 42. That was right over in the middle of turn 2 after Jerry Nadeau had spun.
I think Larry, and I'm not sure, we'll see it from further back. Jerry's already around, but you can see he was all by himself and did not make contact with the wall or another car. Let's see if Kenseth comes into play here.
They all have to go to the apron because they can't see for the smoke. That's what happens. Everybody goes down on the apron. They can't see for the smoke. You get down there, it's real dirty and sandy. That apron is just really, really slick.
There's where Kenseth and McMurray got together right there.
Yep. You get down on that apron, and even when you're trying to come in pit, we'll probably see it before the day's over with down here in turns 3 and 4.
All things considering, that was a very minor accident, especially for the second place car to spin out in front of the entire field at a track like Darlington. Matt Kenseth and Jamie McMurray made slight contact, but everyone would continue on. And Jerry Nadeau is pretty impressive that he spun that car out without hitting the wall or anything else. Most of the leaders stayed out, but a few did elect to come to pit road, seeing how Darlington is kind of like a cheese grater on these tires. Fox would actually miss the restart here, but you didn't really miss much because back then it was still single file restarts.
Back underway just half a lap ago with Elliott Sadler leading Jeff Gordon, Ryan Newman, Jimmy Spencer, Sterling Marlin, and Jeremy Mayfield. Further review showed that the secondary collision in that caution, not a rookie mistake by McMurray, but Kenseth trying to get as far away from Jerry Nadeau as possible.
Just 4 laps later, the caution would fly once again as Jack Sprague would get loose coming off of turn 4 and end up losing control. Fortunately for him, he did not hit anything, and no other drivers found issues during this spin.
Keeps it out of harm's way.
Caution is out again.
Man, everybody's running into each other. There's been about 2 or 3 wrecks down this front straightaway.
The leader's going into turn 3. He's trying to get it going here and stay on the lead lap, and he will.
The leaders would hit pit road under this caution, but Jimmy Spencer would stay on the racetrack, as well as several other drivers who have hit pit road on a previous caution, with Dale Earnhardt Jr. lining up behind Jimmy Spencer on fresher tires.
You see the pace car dropped him off there. 50 miles an hour is what they bring up to speed. We'll watch the Fox tracks here as he starts climbing for the restart. Going through 3rd, then the high gear, start-finish line at 100 miles an hour. Got his hands full of Dale Earnhardt Jr. and that 8 car behind him. 140 miles an hour entering turn 1 on the restart. Pick the throttle up real early in the middle of 1 and 2. They'll come off turn 2 onto the backstretch at almost 160 miles an hour.
Dale Jr. would make quick work of Jimmy Spencer to take the lead, And the reason this is significant, as despite not being part of the epic finish at the end, Dale Jr. would have a very solid day and lead 91 laps, which was the most in the race. Just a few laps later, chaos would ensue as a big crash took place, taking out several drivers, including some big name ones.
This track.
Oh, there, Sterling's in the wall. Turn 1.
Hard.
Bobby Labonte's in trouble. The 18
Caution is
car.
out, bud.
18
Caution is
cars
out.
wrecking.
How's your car, buddy?
29
You all right?
cars spun.
74's in it, and Sprague and Harvick are there.
Caution is out.
I've ever seen these guys racing as hard as they are right now early in a race like this here at this racetrack. Yeah, 48 cars going to have damage, and certainly had probably ruined Sterling's day right there because he got damage on both sides of his car.
This was coming in off the
He
front
can't-
stretch into turn 1.
Sterling can't turn the car. The left front fender's got the steering locked up.
Let's look up toward the top of the frame, right over here.
Yeah, he's
Now it's going to unfold right here.
yeah. He just the left front tire was rubbing on the fender and it wouldn't turn going in the corner.
And there Bobby Labonte, he may have
gets-
got tagged from behind, and he gets hit by Kevin Harvick in the 29 as well.
I don't think I've seen a race start here like this in a long time, where everybody's so impatient.
Sterling Marlin and Jimmy Johnson make contact, which led to absolute chaos going into the next turn, where Sterling Marlin had a flat tire and could not steer his car, and this would effectively take out several contenders, including Sterling Marlin, Jimmy Johnson, Kevin Harvick, and Bobby Labonte. Despite all these cars having heavy damage, only Todd Bodine actually retired from the race at this point. The rest were able to continue on after making repairs in the garage area, as back then you could take as long as you want to repair your car after an accident to get back out there to try to score some points, and we didn't have the damage clock like we do today. But all those drivers' hopes for a victory were all but gone. The leaders would hit pit road and the running order would get slightly shaken up again. This time Dale Jarrett would lead Jeff Gordon and previous leader Dale Earnhardt Jr. on the restart.
Led a charmed life so far. A little leprechaun in him today. And Jimmy Spencer. Here we go.
What I see here today is the young is kind of restless.
At an early stage.
Yeah, they need to calm down here a little bit. I mean, I can't tell you, I've never seen a race start like this here.
Here comes Nadu with a run right up to the bumper at Junior. They're going to go inside Gordon for second place. Let's go to the pits and Matt.
And the young one, Jimmy Johnson, had to make 2 stops on pit road, one to service the car, then he came back in just to work on the cosmetic damage to the right front corner of that race car. Corey Quick put a big, huge piece of tape just to try to help the aerodynamics a little bit and help the cosmetic damage.
Just a few laps later after the restart, Jeff Burton would lose an engine, dropping oil on the track, bringing out the yellow flag once again. This would end Jeff Burton's day, but the racing would also calm down a little bit from the chaotic beginning of this race. Again, there would be split strategy calls in terms of pitting amongst the leaders, leaving Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the lead on the restart.
Green, green, green.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. would accumulate a pretty nice lead before trouble would strike again, ending the 29-lap green flag run.
Yeah, Steve, once and he's in trouble right there with Ward Burton in the 22 car.
Turn 1.
Company outside.
Caution is out.
That group of cars right there just kind of been all just, Newman's been holding some of them up, and they've been all around him.
Now what's happening, they're trying to stay on the lead lap.
Come on, Ryan.
Let's see what happened here in turn 1.
Ward just goes in down on the apron, and you can't go into that corner beside of someone. Something's got to give before you get there.
Ryan Newman and Ward Burton would make contact going into the first turn, sending both cars into a spin. Both cars didn't hit anything else and were able to continue on in the race without any issues, even staying on the lead lap as Dale Earnhardt Jr. slowed up to let them gather it back up and continue on. Everyone would hit pit road and Dale Earnhardt Jr. would lead them back to green on lap 75, triggering the longest green flag run of the entire day of 116 laps.
Right. Turns 3 and 4, and look for the restart to begin lap 75.
As long as we keep these cars, keep them bunched up the way that we have here with all these cautions, we're going to keep on having people banging into each other.
Like you talked about 100 miles in the books. There's really only 2 cars officially out of the race. Jeff Burton, of course, with the engine failure, and Todd Bodine in the 54 car.
When Dale Earnhardt Jr. was in lap traffic and struggling to get through, Mark Martin would take the lead on lap 117. And unfortunately for Dale Earnhardt Jr., he would not be able to get back to the lead again during the race. With 162 laps to go, we would see the first green flag pit stops of the race, as tires are a premium at Darlington, and they still are to this day. As some of the guys further back started to pit, it triggered pretty much everyone to pit road, or they would just risk losing way too much time. The green flag racing wouldn't last forever. Just as teams were approaching their second green flag pit stop, an accident on the front straightaway involving John Andretti would bring out the yellow once again. Some drivers further back did lose a lap by making a pit stop, but this didn't affect any of the front runners.
Was all torn off it. Let's have a look here, top of your screen. Oh.
Looked like Jimmy Spencer in the 7 car got into his left rear. And Jimmy was one of the cars on fresh tires too. He had just been to pit road about 4 or 5 laps ago.
Jimmy Spencer makes contact with John Andretti coming off of turn 4, completely shredding John's left rear tire. This unfortunately would tear the whole quarter panel off the car, sending John into the inside wall and effectively ending his day. Jeff Gordon would win the race off pit road and he would restart the race in the lead. However, he was not in the front of the line. Mike Skinner in the number 4 car was on the tail end of the lead lap and led the field back to green. This also gave an opportunity for the lap car of Dale Jarrett to get in front of Jeff Gordon as well. And it was kind of a weird scenario when stuff like this would happen back then. And in today's NASCAR, you would never see that, with double file restarts on every restart, the lucky dog, and lap cars being put behind the lead lap cars. Because it was kind of confusing when you see something like that. Despite this being Darlington's 100th Cup race, there were some other really cool stats about this day. Check this out.
You don't talk a lot about him, but as the laps wind down, he always ends up in the top 10.
Look at all the big numbers on the board for career starts today. Terry Labonte, 750th. Elliott, his 700th career starts, and other drivers with milestones to celebrate today.
Those are all huge names in NASCAR, and pretty wild that they all made milestone starts of their careers during this race, the 100th Cup race at Darlington. And right as the broadcast was mentioning that, Dale Jarrett was trying desperately to stay on the lead lap and ahead of Jeff Gordon as the 2 Hall of Famers banged doors going down the straightaway, with eventually Gordon getting the better of Jarrett. The final yellow flag of the day would come out on lap 238 for debris in turns 3 and 4. The leaders would hit pit road and Jeff Gordon was able to get off pit road easily in front. Unfortunately though, second place Mark Martin, some issues would strike and it would effectively end his chance at winning. His tire changer dropped a lug nut and he would have to return to pit road to fix the loose wheel. This would put Mark back in 11th place and Jeff Gordon would lead the field to green on the restart.
With the lap cars on the inside, it's like restarting this race in 22nd position. A lot of cars to fight.
And this is when you come back out and you have a caution right now, something happens to you, and you know what you're going to say.
And this late in the race, nobody's going to give you a break of no kind.
We had no business back there in the first place.
But Martin is still in it to win it. He's one of 11 cars on the lead lap as we get the restart with 52 laps to go in Darlington.
This is where things began to get really interesting, as we saw 2 drivers enter the top 5 that haven't really been a factor all day. Kurt Busch in the 97 car, who did actually start the day in 6th place, but hasn't really been a contender until now, and Ricky Craven in the 32 car, who started way back in 31st place, and was one of the drivers to take advantage of early pit strategy with so many cautions to get himself up towards the front, and he's slowly gotten closer and closer. Also around this time, Kurt Busch's power steering began to cut out. Driving Darlington is hard enough, but the track too tough to tame without power steering is a whole new level of difficult. Approaching 30 laps to go, it looked like Jeff Gordon firmly had this race in hand, but contact with the outside wall did enough damage to his car to knock out the toe. Ironically, second place Elliott Sadler also got into the wall and knocked out the toe of his car as well, thus opening the door wide open for third place Kurt Busch to get by both of them and take the lead of the race. And 4th place Ricky Craven was not far behind either to get past Gordon and Elliott as well. Jeff Gordon would actually end up bringing his car down pit road, effectively ending his day.
Momentum, I mean, the 97 was wide open off that corner where the other two were pedaling, trying to keep off each other.
So Kurt Busch is the new leader, and he has driven away. It took Sadler a while to get past Jeff Gordon. Took him 2 laps to finally seal that deal, so Kurt Busch now has a 1.4-second lead.
Now it looked like it was Kurt Busch's race to lose. But with 10 laps to go, his power steering would completely fail, literally making his arms go numb. And he was having a hell of a time trying to wheel that car around the track to get to the end. Ricky Craven, who was conserving his tires, was able to slowly reel him in while Kurt Busch struggled. Next, it would result in what many call the greatest finish in NASCAR history.
Watch
Still
Craven,
something wrong with
watch,
right
watch
front.
Craven on this end of the racetrack. Really gets off of turn 4 hard. Here he comes. He's there. He'll make the move on him. Going down into turn 1, he's going to put the move on him.
3 laps to go.
Craven's going to, the thing that Craven is really good, he's good in 3 and 4. Looks like they're pretty even on this end of the racetrack.
Yeah, he don't really pull away from him coming off turn 2, but right here going down into turn 3, this is where we'll watch him.
Watch
2.5 laps to go.
Watch this. Here he goes. Craven gets that high right out next to that wall. Watch.
Right
Watch
there.
it close.
Right there in the middle.
Cuts down. He's going to make it down. He's going to get down under him. That's not the way to do it. I don't know. Come on, baby. Come on.
Side by side, 2 laps to go. Somebody's got to give getting into turn 1.
Nobody. And in the wall goes Busch.
That was not a very good idea.
Look, the crossover move, he got into
Come
him.
on, clear. Good job, man. Hang in there.
And here comes Blaney. Blaney.
Who's going to get off?
Here he
turn 4?
comes. Here he comes. He's got him this time.
It's going to be a drag race. Wow! They touch. They touch.
Craven got him. Craven got him.
Craven got him.
And
Craven. All right. What a finish.
have you ever?
No, I've never.
Wow.
What a finish.
Ricky Craven gets Kurt Busch at the line for one of the most epic finishes in NASCAR history. It was also the closest finish in NASCAR history, and one that many consider the best finish in NASCAR history. What a great story for Ricky Craven to get his 2nd and final career NASCAR Winston Cup Series win, and a hell of an effort of Kurt Busch trying to hold on to win that race despite having no power steering. As I mentioned, Darlington is one of the toughest tracks with power steering, so I could only imagine the fatigue that he was going through towards the end of that race. But it was just an incredible finish, one that I will never forget, and I'm sure many NASCAR fans from around the world will never forget either. Just absolutely incredible. The margin of victory was 2/1000ths of a second. Well everyone, that's going to wrap it up for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed this one. I had a lot of fun making it. Subscribe to the channel for more great NASCAR and motorsports related content. Give this video a like if you liked it, and I hope that you'll come back to my channel for my next one. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Take care everybody.